This is as good as it gets for me. I mean, I know a lot of people may overlook punters, the positions like that. I don't. I absolutely love. For me, this is a special guest here tonight with us, Zach von Rosenberg, our first in a few weeks, and he's a Tiger. I've not only wanted to get to know for a long time. I'm absolutely honored to welcome him here with us tonight. LSU national championship winning punter Zach von Rosenberg. You guys know him as ZVR. Zach, how are you doing? Thank you for hanging with us.
I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me, and I apologize I couldn't get on last week. I've just been going on vacation, trying to get away from the work life. But no, I appreciate you having me, and I look forward to it, man.
Hey, thank you so much. I mean, how's your family doing? How's the von Rosenberg crew?
Everybody's good. The little ones are still playing baseball, or they're wrapping up baseball, I should say now. Gabe, my younger brother, there. Honestly, we've had three job changes very recently in the family, all for the better. Just you get to a point in life, and you kind of want to have change, or you want to take a risk. You want to bet on yourself, and I encourage both my brothers to do that. And they are doing so, and they already, one of them's a month in, and one of them's a couple months in, and they like it so far. And like I said, I'm the type of person to bet on myself, and I encourage other people to do it all the time as well.
Your brothers, how old are your brothers? You said Gabe is
Yeah.
playing baseball.
So no, Gabe, he's done. He was a site safety manager at Westlake Chemical. He is 30, and then Grant, it was also a site safety manager at BASF, and he just turned 29. So they're a little bit younger than I am. But yeah, they're doing their thing. And then I got two older ones too, Josh and Seth, and they're in Lake Charles. Josh, ironically, is he runs his own safety company, and then Seth works at the port of Lake Charles.
That's awesome. And you just said that you actually ran into T-Bob in Vegas just barely. Were you with your brothers in Vegas or your
Uh,
family?
I was, and I went with my girlfriend Julia. We had a great time. I ran into T-Bob actually on the plane, and he was doing a little retreat to go see the Grateful Dead at the what's the giant eye called?
The
I didn't even get.
Sphere.
Yeah, the Sphere. I didn't even go to it. I wanted to, but you just get so caught up doing things, going to shows and dinners and everything. But he went to see the Grateful Dead concert with I think 4 or 5 of his good friends, and I'm sure he had a great time. I never actually got to see him. We tried to link up, but it wasn't meant to be. And if you've been to Vegas, you understand if you didn't plan to be with someone there or plan a dinner with them, it's very difficult to accommodate or change plans, I guess, to do things. And he had his whole weekend planned out, and so did I. So I wasn't upset about that, but I just thought it was funny that I saw him on the plane, and he had all his buddies with him, and I know they went and had a fantastic time just like I did.
Dang, no, like Hunter S. Thompson esque escapades with you and T Bob. I was hoping that would go down that route, but dang.
Yeah, no, no. I thought about, well, I think the third night we were there, I thought about texting him, and then I realized that was the night the Grateful Dead concert was. I was like, never mind, I'm just not gonna. I didn't realize when it was. When I finally thought to meet up with him, he was already going to the concert, and I didn't want to interrupt that.
And they're playing like 4 hour shows. I saw some
Yeah,
of the footage
exactly.
from what they were doing. I cannot wait to see a show there at the Sphere. It's absolutely just it's eerie what they're doing there with the Sphere. But for those who don't know Zach, this dude wasn't just a punter. I mean, this dude is a three-sport guy. You played soccer, right, in high school as well?
So no, not in high school. I played growing up though. I to almost high school. Same deal with football. I stopped playing football in 8th grade, and then came back my junior year and continued to play football at Zachary High School. I really consider myself. I mean, you could really say I played everything because I played basketball too, but I kind of gave it all up to focus on baseball for high school, and really only played high school baseball and high school football. But I played everything all the way up until my freshman year of high school. I mean, I was playing tennis, basketball, soccer, football, baseball. I was doing a little bit of everything just because uh, things are different now, right? You train these kids year round for a sport, which I disagree with, but people still do it. And if you want to be a well-rounded athlete, I think you shouldn't focus on just one because the other sports do benefit and have their, you know, things that they improve your game in other ways. And but you know, and obviously the number one factor, you don't get burnt out with the particular game that you've chosen, or I'd say your parents have chosen for you. But yeah, no, I played everything, and I was very fortunate to play football and baseball both at a very high level.
Well, I really think that that had a big role to play in what you did as a punter and how you were able to pick that position up, which I'm going to ask you about in a bit here, because I think that is exactly what benefited you in the future, was just playing so many different sports. Just being able to, as an athlete, be able to pick these things up quickly. Because you jumped in there. You're drafted by the Pirates. I mean, so basically, you were the first Paul Skeens, right?
Minus the 102-mile-an-hour heater. I threw hard, but not Paul Skeen's generational talent hard. Um, I would say I challenged him to a round of ping pong, but no, no, he's unbelievable. I was a great high school player, and I was a good professional player, but I wasn't durable uh, the way that Paul is, and the way that he's a workhorse, and I think he's going to have a long career as long as he can stay healthy himself.
It's crazy how things have worked out, because you literally are drafted out of high school, 3 state titles at Zachary. You're pitching in the 80s and 90s. You're 6th round, 1.2 million signing bonus, drafted by the Pirates. If someone were to tell you in, say 2009, 2010, that this, you know, going to LSU, national championship punter, all SEC punter, that this would be how your career has worked out, what would you say?
Oh man, I I'd have laughed at you, to be honest with you. When I turned 18 and I signed that contract with the Pirates, I had every intention of baseball being my career for until I retired. Um, and then life hits you, and you have a couple of nagging injuries, and then ultimately, when you're only as good as your health, and you can't perform on the mound, and you can't remain healthy. Um, they're going to find other people who can stay healthy, and that's the name of the game of football as well for a lot of players. Um, and then ultimately, I just didn't, pan out the way I guess I could have in baseball. A lot of that may have been self-inflicted because I changed too much of my routine and things I had done that got me there, um, baseball wise and training wise, with my brother, my dad. And I kind of do wish I'd have just repeated exactly what I did in high school to get to that point. But for some reason at that time, I felt that I needed to change everything I had done to get there, change my regiments, change my weight, even a lot of things that I don't think benefited my career in any way, and probably were detrimental, that I would probably go back and change now. But at the same time, I got to win a national championship because I got cut from baseball anyway. So what did I really lose there? Because if I did pan out in baseball, I wouldn't have met Joe Burrow and played with him as a Heisman Trophy winner, the highest paid wide receiver of all time, won a national championship under Coach O, been a walk on, gotten a scholarship, all those things that happened later on in my life. You know, in 2015, I'd have told you I was cursed or something was. Man, I was at the lowest point probably of my life, losing baseball. But uh, one thing my dad always taught me is that there's only one way, and that's forward, and working hard, and doing the things that I loved, and that was sports. I had to keep pushing, keep going, and that. There was no other option, really.
I mean, Zach, you spent 6 years in the minors, so you knew. I mean, once you were cut and you lost baseball, you were at your lowest, as you said. You'd been through the grind. I mean, tell people how difficult the road life is, the minor league system, 6 years.
I mean, whew, um, I'm not gonna sit here and say it made me resent baseball because I still love the game for what it is. It just made me not appreciate it as much because the ooh, the lengths we had to go at the levels I was playing to just play a game were incredible. I mean, I had multiple games where we played. I'll just think of one instance. We played a 18 inning game in Lakewood, New Jersey, against the Lakewood Blue Claws. at 7 o'clock, 18 innings. So the game didn't end until 2:30 in the morning, which means we didn't get out of there until 3:30. Well, we had to drive on the bus 7 hours. They had to delay the game in North Carolina an hour, and I pitched the next day after getting. We didn't go to the hotel. Got straight off the bus, went straight into the stadium, played another game, lost. I pitched. I actually pitched okay, but um, we lost. I think we lost 3-2 or 2-1, something like that. But stuff like that was pretty, unfortunately common. Um, uh, and it just happened to be a Children's Day, which all Children's Day, or the kids get out of school or whatever summer school they're in, they have a 10 a.m. game. Or our game got pushed from 10 a.m. to 11. Whoever made that schedule should, reevaluate their life choices. But anyway, yeah, instances like that are all too common across. I didn't even play in the Midwest League. You could argue that was the South Atlantic League, which has bad travel, but the Midwest League, there's multiple 15 to 18 hour bus rides in that league. My worst bus ride was 14 in the South Atlantic League, which is terrible. But I mean, you're making 3 and 4 15 to 18 hour bus rides in the Midwest League, which is even worse. Yeah, it makes you question: are you really doing this? I guess your why. What is your why for doing this? Like, if you don't love baseball, especially if you didn't get a signing bonus, if you're at the time minimum wage or whatever was $1,200 a month, when you're really working like 60, 70 hour weeks, $1,200 a month, is that worth the 15-hour bus ride? And that doesn't even count because now you're tipping the clubbies. At the time, baseball was not the same baseball it is now. We were having to tip everybody out, and as we should. They were washing our clothes and providing us food. So, it was a thing that was done for 50, 80, 100 years before I even got there. So it was just the norm. But all these guys that didn't have a signing bonus were absolutely playing for the love of the game, because there was no way to save money. And many players were in the red for playing baseball. They would get home and they'd have to go to work at a local auto shop or, a family business, hopefully for most of them, because they needed to put away money and save money just to play baseball during the regular season.
I asked that question thinking it was going to be like, oh, long bus rides and this, and get some like really some insight, but that like blew my mind. Some of that stuff, they literally minor league guys are tipping out the equipment managers and stuff like wow.
Yep, clubbies and everything, and the game's different now. I want to say it changed around 2017. There was major overhaul of that system because they realized it was unsustainable, and they were losing. Ultimately, I played with a guy. I don't want to say his name. He's from Houston. He quit playing because I don't want to say his wife. She is his wife, but she basically was like, we can't keep doing this. Like, we're losing money. We aren't progressing in life. And the kid's last year with the Pirates, he had a 2.5 ERA and he retired. 2.5 ERA. I'm not going to say his name. He went to Texas Tech, I'll say that. And he retired. In his final season, he had like 70 innings with a 2.5 ERA. And he retired because of money issues, basically.
Man, I don't understand how physically and like emotionally exhausting that living on the road just year round can be, but the money part you add to it as well. You were just out of high school too, but you were smart with your money. You bought a house right there in Baton Rouge, right?
It's right in front of me. You're looking at the back. This is my back porch right here.
I was about to ask, is you still got it? Awesome. This is fantastic. So this is the house you have lived in since like your whole LSU career. You spent living in that house.
I bought this house when I was either 19 or 20. I think I was 20 when I bought this house. So I've had it 14 years now.
What, Zach, why do you think you weren't able to take that next step in baseball to the majors? Why do you think it was like, this is not something for me? Like that moment, because athletes don't want to quit. It's the last thing you guys want to do. What did it take to like make you say, hey, I should change direction here?
So ironically, I was actually throwing, in terms of velocity, the hardest I'd ever thrown when I did leave the game, or the game left me rather, because I got cut. So I got told no more, and not the other way around. So I was throwing 94, 95, But the problem was I was starting to have serious, which I still have to this day, nerve issues. I was losing sensation in my outer two fingers and my outside of my middle finger. I don't know if I'm describing that right, but these two fingers, my pinky finger and my ring finger on my right hand, and the outside of my middle finger, I was starting to lose sensation. So I'd throw a pitch, say it was 94 miles an hour. I'd have to walk around. So there's no whole pitch count thing where you only have 20 seconds between pitches. I would have to walk around the mound for 40 seconds, 30 seconds, grab the rosin every single fastball because I would lose sensation in those fingers. So every single pitch, I'm having to eat up time to get sensation just back in my finger because I was having so much nerve problems. I still have, like I said, I still have nerve damage to this day. Even minor throwing of football will cause it. But it's a pretty bizarre deal. But it's it's the name of it is what it is. That's just baseball.
I mean, so that's really the injury that I shouldn't have said quit, because really that's what happened is you were cut, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when you were like, okay, we're going to change direction. But I just, I mean, how tough was that decision to leave baseball after grinding for literally like your whole childhood? You established yourself as a name in the game.
I mean, yeah, like I said, it was the most difficult thing I probably had ever done. You have to look at your family, your dad, your brother, the people that trained you your whole life, the people that kind of got you there. Obviously, I put in a lot of hard work there in that too. But the people that really put their blood, sweat, and tears and invested in you as well. My brother and my dad, like I said, and it's taxing in that aspect because you're letting yourself down, but you're also letting you feel like you're letting other people down too. Um, but I didn't have an answer, and you know, I didn't know how to fix what I was going through without having a major surgery. And when I was told, the surgery options, they're like, hey, this, we can do this, but we don't even know if it's actually going to work. And that's the worst case scenario where you're like, okay, well, I can have this surgery, XYZ surgery, and it could work, and I could come back, and I could still play. But at what cost, and what if I don't come back, and what if it was all for nothing? And that was kind of the writing of the wall of like, okay, is this really worth my time? Because it wasn't a clear cut like Tommy John surgery. Tommy John surgery I absolutely would have had. Even labrum surgery, even though it's much harder to come back from labrum, I would have had. But Tommy John would have almost been better because with nerves, you don't know how nerves are going to react to any sort of, especially now. Um, 8 years ago, 10, I don't know what, 2024, so 9 years ago, it was still like a speculatory surgery. And it may be better now. I haven't even looked into it. And to be honest with you, I don't really watch baseball outside of LSU baseball because it still hurts to even watch the game today. And that's after having an entire LSU football career. Um, but, I miss the game, and I'm kind of staying away from it until I have children of my own, because then if they want to play the game, then I've had enough of a break to teach them one day the way I played and the way I'd hope that they'd play as well.
Well, that's the thing is, I think what really helped you transition into this next chapter, even though you were at your lowest, you said you transition this next chapter where you take that scholarship back at LSU, and you go on the football team as a tight end. I don't think a lot of people know that.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
that was a horrible decision, to be honest. I should have just been a punter from the jump. That was a horrible idea because I'm not an SEC punter. And I don't know what I was thinking. That was kind of arrogant of me to think I would be an SEC tight end. I was an SEC punter. It was kind of arrogant of me to think I could not play football in that manner since my freshman year, really. I mean, I punted in high school, but being a position player, I hadn't done it at that time in almost a decade. We'll call it 8 years, and really thinking I could block Arden Key and Kendall Beckwith and Jamal Adams and these guys. Looking back, I'm like, Zach, what were you thinking, man? I could have maybe played at McNeese or Tulane or something like that, but not at LSU.
was that just like, I'm 6'5", I've got the build, I've got, we can tight end's probably the perfect spot for me. Was that the reason?
That, and I just was really athletic. I was still fast. When I played against guys, especially in basketball, because I would sneak into the rec before I was even at LSU, because I had friends that were still at LSU when I was playing baseball. I just knew that I was just as athletic as everybody, and even the football players that came, like Odell. This is kind of like coming full circle now, but Odell and Jarvis Landry would go to the rec and play basketball, and I would play against them. And yeah, they're better at basketball than me, but in terms of athleticism, like I'm at least holding my own in terms of like athletic ability. Am I as fast as them? No. Can I jump as high as them? No. But am I scoring points against them? Absolutely. And that might be just because I'm 6'5". But no, it was, you know, how do I say this? I just thought I had more ability to be a position player at LSU than what actually was happening. If I had had 2 years or even a year, a full year, calendar year to prep, knowing that I was going to do it, which I did, and I just like straight from baseball straight to football. If I had a full year to prepare, I may have had a better shot, but I was too far out the game, and it just wasn't going to happen. I jumped into it too quick, and I didn't have the skill set presently available to be a successful tight end at LSU. Whereas, being a punter was much more likely, which is why I chose that path.
And that's something you were an all-state punter to the both seasons that you punted for Zachary. When did punting like become that option at LSU where you're like, okay, tight end's not working out, we're gonna punt now? Like, did a coach kind of come over and decide that with you? Like,
I would always kick. It started off as there was a guy, I'll shout him out. He'll love this. He was a walk-on. His name is Josh Tharp, and me and Josh Tharp would kind of just mess around before practice, get out there early because he was also a tight end in 2016. It would have been, and we just punt. We just kick at practice. I'd have my full gear on or whatever, and my punt. I'd have tight end cleats on, so not kicking cleats, tight end cleats. And Josh played soccer as well, and he could kick. He could punt it pretty good. He was no slouch. I just had a bigger leg than him, and I was left-footed. And then after, let's just call it like 3-4 weeks, one of the coaches finally saw. It was like, might have been Steve Ensminger actually when he was the tight ends coach. He's like, what the hell are you doing? Like you could actually kick the damn ball, And I was like, yeah, I kind of can. And you know, we'll call it a situation happened with the backup punter. He got into some trouble and ended up having to, I don't want to say demoted him, but they made him, he got into an issue, a legal issue, and caused some problems. They didn't have a backup punter anymore. It opened a door for me to have an opportunity. And my first ever shot at practice, Les Miles actually butchered my name. And I was on the wrong field. I was on field 2, and I needed to be on field 1, but I wasn't prepared to get a call. But it basically, Les Miles screamed across the field, Van Valkenburg! Excuse me, it's more like this. Van Valkenburg! And
Van Valk.
Van Val, exactly, yeah, true story, 1000% true story. So he screamed it, and I was like, "Who is Van Valkenburg?" Like everybody kind of looked around, like, "What are we doing?" And I was kind of like 50 yards away, and he screamed it again, Van Valkenburg! And then one of the coaches was like, "Oh, that's Von Rosenberg." Just yelled and told me to get on the field and punt my first whatever punt. So I sprint full speed about 50 yards away to this field, to field 1, to punt to Tre'Davious White. And my first punt, I'm gassed. I'm out of breath. I just sprinted 50 yards because I'm holding up the whole drill for special teams. First punt was 54 yards, completely gassed with full tight end gear, not punter equipment, which I had the full size shoulder pads because I was a tight end, and I had tight end cleats on, and I kicked my first punt was 54 yards. And they're like, all right, this guy's got it. We'll keep him as a punter. And that was kind of how that all started. And then it was pretty quick after that. I went, I probably stuck out another 2 months as a tight end. Not even maybe. I switched to punting pretty quick after that. Got my smaller shoulder pads, got a different face mask and punting cleats. And then, yeah, and that was pretty much how I switched to punting. And then I redshirted my first year and really didn't get my first opportunity until game 3 of my redshirt freshman year. Had that shot, and then our starting punter that 4th game, I believe, something like that. I don't know if I'm getting that exactly right. He struggled, had back-to-back bad punts. I got an opportunity, hit another 50-yarder, and then after that, I never really, I started from then on, from 2017 third or fourth game until the fall of 2020, until after COVID. I started 4 consecutive seasons, and that was it. It's crazy. I still even telling you the storyline. I don't even know if it even feels true to me, but it is true. It is what happened, but it just doesn't. It's kind of surreal that it actually happened that way because I was a walk on for over 2 years, got a scholarship eventually, and it just the way so many stars had to align and so many things had to happen, and that's why I always tell people I was so blessed and fortunate that it just everything happened the way it perfectly the way it needed to for me to get an opportunity, and that's why it's such a blessing uh, for me in my life.
I think it's the multiple, sports that you played, and you had to be ready for that moment. The Van Valkenburg. You had to
Yeah.
be ready for that moment. You
Hmm.
go out there and you shank that thing.
Oh,
You
it's done. It's probably dead in the water right there. At that first punt, it's probably dead in the water if I don't hit that first punt 50 yards.
I mean, you never know. You never know how things could have happened, even if you shank it. But it's like I've been in that situation where I've failed, I've succeeded, I've seen both sides of it. So I know, like, sometimes when those gates of opportunity open, I mean, it was such a big moment, and someone who I think really understood how good you were and what a gem you were this on this roster was Greg McMahon, someone who never gets his dues. Greg McMahon, I know a lot of LSU fans, myself included, miss him dearly, though. What makes him special as a coach?
So Greg McMahon, I hope he gets to see this clip. You can clip this. He would infuriate me because he would do things the way a dinosaur would. He would. It's one of those things. He would not change any of his mentalities and attitudes and his archaic way of doing things. But my goodness, everything he did worked. So why? And his, now that I'm older and I'm done at LSU, there were certain things that we would suggest, like Avery and me and Blake would suggest, and he would take our ideas every now and then and use them. But in terms of grand scheme and his mentality and philosophy, Greg would not stray from what Coach Mack would not stray from what he thought, and it worked. I can't hate on him now because we were so stout and fundamentally sound, and we made big plays on special teams. I mean, I'm just thinking of DJ Chark. I want to say in 2018 we were the number two special teams unit in all of college football. That was the year Cole Tracy went crazy.
Yeah,
I want to say we were top 20 in special teams every year that I was at LSU. I know for a fact in 2018 we were unbelievable. I want to say number two overall in the country in total special teams. But yeah, Mac, love Mac to death. His archaic systems and methodology and philosophy, it would drive me nuts. But man, he knew how to implement it and he knew how to make it work. And I'm just glad he's still in the game. But he was set in his ways and it worked for him. So I don't blame him one bit.
he's got the rings to show for it, man. I mean, it was his decision that really changed that Super Bowl around too. The onside kick, straight from kickoff, going into that second half of Super Bowl, Saints Colts. That's McMahon right there. I mean, the guy's crazy. How did he develop you specifically?
He would tell you he didn't any in terms of coaching punting, he didn't really coach me up mechanically at all. What he did do is more of the philosophy of punting and what you're trying to do specifically in certain schemes. Like if we're trying to do a crossfield kick or and that's why I say he was archaic because there was sometimes when I wanted to do things, especially in game, differently than he did, um, and sometimes it worked out. But the way he's like, I'm not, you can punt this ball with a 4.5 second hang time, 46 yards on left of the numbers. Why am I going to risk you kicking it across the field when I know you kick it in front of Racy McMath? He's going to make the tackle. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. And that's the type of the things that would drive me nuts. Is I I wish he gave me a little more leeway to do what I wanted to do, but he knew what was going to work, and he was not wrong. And that's why I can't criticize him one bit about his philosophy because he would just look at the guys he had around him, and if we didn't have Racy McMath or before him Russell Gage, we might have done a few things differently. But I had some absolute studs And he was like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I totally understand that mentality now. Why risk certain things when you know the guys you have are going to make plays and you know I'm going to kick the ball 45 yards with a certain amount of hang time? Racy's going to run 40 yards in 4.5 seconds. Actually, really, he's got 6.5 seconds to get there because it takes me 2 seconds to punt it. So, and like I said, in hindsight now, he's a genius because he was, in terms of playing it safe, was he really playing it safe? He was actually playing it to his advantage because Racy might cause a fumble. And
Yes.
I think I had 7 fumbles in my time at LSU. I had 3 in 2017.
Two
Uh,
just against Tennessee that I
yeah,
could not
two.
remember.
Yeah. I think I had 7 fumbles in 4 years, which, you don't really see that in the stat sheet, but he was right. You know,
It changed
here I am.
games.
Exactly. Here I am at 33 years old saying, damn it, Mac, you were right.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Racing McMath too, because that dude would absolutely go down there and lay people the fuck out. Like that guy
Yeah.
would knock people out. And this guy's a receiver, and he's going down there absolutely destroying people. Just just unbelievable big piece of that special teams success for those few years. I'm glad you brought him up and gave him some love as well. I think it's crazy though, Zach, that your first year punting at LSU, you were named a freshman All SEC just following that 2017 season. Um, Punting is nowhere close to easy or is it for the faint of heart? Really, how did you pick it up so quickly after 6 years without the reps?
Um, this was, you brought it up earlier at the beginning. Soccer, my entire life, I played soccer for a long time. And luckily, that's where I developed my leg strength. My mom would tell you I used to kick the shit out of this tree in my front yard because I would kick footballs, during football season into this tree and pretend I was a field goal kicker, sometimes punter, just depending. And we played yard ball. We didn't have cell phones whenever, showing my age here. We didn't have cell phones when I was 8, 10, 11 years old. So I'm just, along with soccer, I'm just kicking balls around and developing my leg strength. And then on top of that, I'm playing 4 different sports. So year round, my leg strength is always going to be there. Um, and I didn't have it at first. I would say when I first started kicking with Josh Tharp, the walk on I mentioned earlier, um, I was kicking the ball probably 40 yards consistently. But as I got more explosive and as the gym started catching up with me under Coach Mavi's program, the explosiveness started to really show up in my punting. That's where I actually would notice it first, is because suddenly those, short, pretty 40-yard punts are now high 50-yard punts, and then higher, and sometimes 55 to 60-yard punts. And that was when things really took off and had a life of their own of like, wow, you have almost an NFL caliber leg. You just have to get your consistency right. And, and it came, and I got to my peak right around my senior year, I would say. And I wasn't quite good enough to make it in the NFL. I did sign with the Vikings, but there's 32 jobs, and I was probably the 36th best punter in the world, and that's the hard thing to deal with in that department.
Well, yeah, we can get into that right now. I think, Zach, I disagree with that. I think you just maybe weren't given an opportunity that, Minnesota didn't. Who was the punter they had there? Very established punter, right? They had at Minnesota.
Yeah, yeah. Shoot, I can't think of his name off the top of my head because after that door closed, I let it close kind of fast. I just was. I did come out on a bad time because the COVID year, the most veteran punters and kickers had ever been retained in the NFL in like 25 years. I want to say there was only 2 new punters the next year because of COVID, because everybody wanted to rely on veterans during that season, which sucked for me because I was a rookie coming out of the COVID season in 2020, which would have been early 2021, spring of 2021, which really, like I said, it's an excuse, but it just is what it is. And that guy, the veteran there, uh, I can't think of his name. He's got a brother, Colquitt is his brother. Dustin Colquitt is his brother. His name is I can't think of it right now. It's killing me. But it's Dustin Colquitt's brother is who was the guy that was there. He was like a 15-year veteran, and man, I'm gonna be honest with you. In terms of kicking at the time, he was not far and away better than me. No doubt he was a little bit better than me, but he was a little bit better than me because he'd been doing it for 15 years at the NFL level.
Britton Colquitt.
That's exactly what it was. Britton Colquitt. Britton was very, very. We were close. He was a little. Look, I'm a man. I'll tell you, he was a little bit better than me. But for the $1.3 million veteran minimum they had to give him, and they only $670,000 they had to give me, it was not a $600,000 difference of him being that much better than me, especially holding, because that was something I pride myself on back then. I was an excellent holder, and
Absolutely.
they even told me that whenever I had my exit meeting, when they cut me, when they waived me, and I and eventually got a trial with the 49ers, but the Vikings waived me. And they're like, "Hey, look, your holding's there. Like, it's as good as we've ever seen out of a rookie. But the punting, we needed a little more out of you, and that was it. We're gonna have to let you go. We're signing a defensive lineman. I forgot who that defensive lineman was. Unfortunately, he didn't pan out, which sucks for me even worse. I wish he'd have been an All Pro so I could feel better. But yeah, no, it. Another thing too is my age. I was 31 at the time, which didn't help any. But like I said, man, I got memories and a national championship ring, and do I think I could have gotten maybe a better opportunity with another team? Maybe, but all the cards fell the way they were supposed to, and I don't have any regrets.
That's the thing is with the national championship team, you were in a locker room full of guys who were still in their teens or in 20, 21, at most like 22. Burrow, outlier 24 or 23 or whatever it was, but you're hitting 30 during the 2020 season, and you already owned a home from your signing bonus. You've had all these experiences with the Pirates organization and all. And what was like the dynamic between you and your younger teammates, like really behind the scenes? Were you showing them how to party and showing them the ropes of
Nah,
life?
they were showing me at a party. Some of them, anyway. No, I really felt uh, comfortable until I probably started to get to 29. 29 was the age. I was like, oh, like incoming freshman. Oh, I'm 18, and I'm like, oh, I'm 29. That's when it got a little bit strange because they're like, how are you 20? Before that, when I first started, I was 25 as a walk on my first year, and obviously I redshirted, which gave me that whole extra year. So at 26, I wasn't 25 very long, but at 26, 27, 28, it was no big deal. A lot of the guys like Colin Jeter and Deshaun Smith, those guys, Deshaun just turned 30, so they're close in age to me. But once I hit 29 and then 30, especially my last year, the last year was rough because I was shaking hands with recruits, and some of them were 17 years old, and I'm 30, and that was when it got a little strange. Of like, all right, Zach, what are you doing with your life? And I really, unfortunately, with COVID, I'd had an extra year of eligibility, but it was one of those things. It's like I'm taking up a spot of a 17-year-old kid who could come here and punt. Who I didn't. If I knew it was Jay Bramblett, I would have stayed another year. No offense, Jay, if you hear this. If I knew Jay was going to transfer, well, it was actually Avery the next year, but
Yes.
you know what I'm saying. If I knew it was an incoming transfer that was going to take my spot and not an incoming freshman, I definitely would have stayed another year. It ended up being Avery, but no, I don't know. I don't want to say I felt alienated, but I definitely didn't have the same connection, or it wasn't the same. I don't want to say vibe because that's such a cliche thing to say. It just wasn't the same energy, and it was more awkward, is the best way to put it, uh, with me and 17, 18-year-old guys who were born in, especially when you hear the date. Oh, I was born in 2003, 2004. I'm born in 1990. Like, they're like, all right, dinosaur, Coach O's calling me grandpa in meetings, and it was already bad enough, but now we got kids born in 2004 that are my teammates. That was too much.
Well, I mean, you fit right in with the team from my eyes. From an outside perspective, I had no clue about the age or anything like that until all the stories and the nicknames and all the fables came out. And speaking of which, I feel like that 2018 team kind of set the table for 2019 in many ways. I mean, you guys were kind of figuring it out game by game. What were the experiences that season that kind of made you feel like, hey, we're building up to something here, maybe?
The game at A&M, we lost. But that locker room was, you could tell something was different. The guys kind of rallied together, and because we could have folded up and everybody could have just gone, and I hate to say it, but everybody could have gone and just got hammered drunk and just cashed in the season, lost the last game of the year and not played in the, in the Sugar Bowl, I said Sugar Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl. But we really didn't have that. I mean, yeah, we had some guys opt out of the bowl game, or not necessarily opt out, but injuries here and there. But it wasn't. It was more like we had a chip on our shoulder after that A&M game, even though it was so late in the season. And then we went into UCF with like I said, a chip on our shoulder of like, okay, we know we're at a disadvantage, but we're still going to kick the shit out of UCF. It wasn't, and it was nothing personal yet until the cheap shot on Joe. And that was actually the worst thing that happened for the UCF. I do think they had a much better chance of winning that game had that cheap shot not happened, because our energy really elevated after that hit on
Oh yeah.
Joe, and then obviously he played lights out after. But that, I'm not going to sit here and say we weren't up for the game. We definitely were. But after that cheap shot, our sideline was electric and the energy was electric, and Joe started doing his thing, and everybody kind of relaxed. Of like, okay, they're about to get what's coming to them, and they've deserved this the entire year. And that was that for 2018. And like you said, it built us momentum for the following year.
I love that you're talking about this game because it's one of the dirtiest games I've ever seen. It's one of the most like vengeance, like we're gonna take revenge on each other. Play after play after play. I mean, it was absolutely heinous football out there. It was Old Testament, medieval. It was brilliant. That UCF bowl game was insane. And I feel like you guys were. It was kind of like that foxhole thing, that foxhole mentality. You guys really, kind of hung together in that moment. You see Joe get taken out like that, and I guess supposedly the guy spits on Joe too. And you guys are like, not our quarterback, not our team. No way. We're not going to let UCF do this to us.
Exactly. And like I said, that was the worst thing they could have done, because if we weren't up and ready and awake for that game before, it was personal then. Everybody was pissed, and our hits elevated and our intensity elevated. The sideline was elevated. It changed the whole course of the game, in my opinion.
That game is so just crazy. I want something I noticed. Tell me if I'm wrong about this, Zach. Going into 2019, I could be wrong, but it seems from just a lot of the film I've watched compared 2018, you're punting 2019. It seems like the 2019 season you're punting more like to aim for a specific direction rather than trying to like get your boot into it and let it hang, give our gunners time to get down there. It seems like 2019 you're more like punting for a spot. Am I wrong on that?
Uh, to be honest with you, I mean, I was always punting for a spot. 2019 was difficult to punt because we weren't punting very often because we were so good. I was always punting for a spot. I may have been better at it in 2019 and 2020, and 2018 may have been more, explosiveness, trying to just absolutely blast the ball. I was always aiming for a position at every punt. But 2019, it was actually a tough season for me because I punted so little, and that was my biggest problem. Is let's just say I punt in the first quarter. I won't punt again until 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter when Joe got taken out in the third quarter. Or multiple games, I didn't punt the entire game until 2 minutes left in the game. Well, guess what? I'm not warm hardly, because I haven't been we didn't have an opportunity or an instance where even some games we had like 3 third downs because we scored 56 points. I don't know if it was Vanderbilt or what game it was, but I punted once or twice, or I think it was just once, but it was very, very garbage time punt. And we may have had 3 first downs the whole game, or 3 third downs rather the whole game. So third down, I'm going to go into the net and I'm going to hit a couple punts and make sure I'm ready for fourth down in case we do punt. Well, when you only have 2 third downs the whole game or whatever it was, I'm not going to punt very much. So that was something I was better at in 2020, but I was not prepared for in 2019 because in 2018 I punted a decent amount. And I guess when you look at the stats, though, for 2019, it's going to say I punted about the same amount, but we also played 15 games in 2019, whereas 2018 we only played 13 games. And I think in 2019 I didn't even punt in 2 of the games that year. I could be wrong on that, but regardless, it was difficult to be prepared all the time when your offense was the number 1 offense in the league and the best offense that LSU's ever seen. I guess until last year, right? Is that true that Jaden was better last year? I'm not even sure.
No.
All right, so it's not true. Okay.
I mean,
all right, I'll take you.
He could have been on track to maybe touch Joe's records had LSU played 15 last year, but yeah, it's still no, not even close to Joe. Like I think Joe's got him by like 15 passing touchdowns or something like that. Still, or no, Joe's got 65 and Jaden I think threw like what 40. Yeah, so he's got him by like 25 passing touchdowns.
Got you. Yeah, I guess I was thinking accumulative with his rushing and everything.
Oh God, yeah, I think that would be close then.
Yeah,
total yards.
But yeah, no, I mean, like I said, with the passing yards for sure, we definitely surpassed LSU's offense last year. But no, it was difficult to prepare that year because our offense was so elite that I mean, we could have just gone for it every fourth down and probably still won every game, except maybe Auburn. Auburn maybe not. That was a little scary. But most of the other games, we probably could have gone for it every fourth down, and I would have been an irrelevant player in 2019.
That was the question I was going to ask you. What is the game that season in 2019 where you felt the most attrition? Like this could be the game we lose. Was it
Auburn?
I felt it too. I was
Auburn because their defensive line from the first snap was so dominant. I really think if we'd have played them again later in the season, like the NFL schedule, we play somebody twice, I do think we'd have blown them out the second time because we'd have had a different game plan for the D line. But boy, those D linemen they had were blowing us up every play. They dictated the entire. That tells you how, not to get on Brian Kelly's case, but the number one thing he should have been going after this year was a D lineman. Because if you want to see a D lineman take over a game, watch 2019 Auburn play us. They blew up our line every single play for, let's call it 65 snaps. You want to see what a D line can do? It shut down our entire offense because they were that dominant.
And it was defensive tackles doing it too. It wasn't from the edge. It was all defensive tackle guys, and
no doubt.
That's what LSU needs right now.
Yeah, and look. I would have, I'm not a huge NIL guy. I do think guys should get paid, but if I was NIL Brian Kelly, I'd have given a D lineman, a D tackle, somebody I know, $1 million to be a D tackle at LSU because we need one bad.
We still might get Simeon Barrow. I'm not sure if that situation has figured itself out yet, but that guy is kind of going from one school to another, decommitting, and there's still another month and a half of this till the deadline. So we'll see what happens with that. It might not be over for LSU getting defensive tackles, and hope to God it isn't. Joe Burrow, Zach, Joe Burrow. What is the first thing that enters your mind when I say that name?
Strange guy.
Why?
He's just different, man. He's a good dude, great dude. When I say strange, I don't mean that in a negative way.
Strange is always good with me.
Yeah, he's just different, man. I don't know anybody that'll talk to you that really knows Joe. He's just an odd cat. I don't know how to explain it. Not in a bad way, not in a good way. Just different, just odd. He's somewhere in the middle. He says some off the wall shit. I have some stories I can't say on your show. But he's a good dude. Like Joe is a good dude, like legitimately. But he's just a strange fella, and I don't know if this is offensive to Ohio people, but you can tell he's from Ohio. Um, I don't, I don't know how to say that because I play with some guys from Ohio, and they all act the same. So,
Yes.
and I'm talking about baseball. I'm talking about baseball. I play with baseball players from Ohio, and they all are kind of the same vibe or the same personality, kind. I don't know, but no, Joe's a great dude, good people. Um, he likes to have a good time. He likes to lay low. He doesn't like to. He's in the spotlight because he has to be, but Joe does not like the spotlight. He's not that dude. He does not like, um, and he may like it more now. I don't know because he's back home, but he's not the all eyes on me kind of guy. And this persona he's portrayed to everybody that he's Mr. Suave, and he is Mr. Suave, right? Because he's marketed himself that way. But Joe
And
would just love to kick back on a couch and watch UFC and and have fun with his friends, like four guys or whatever, and do nothing for hours, play video games. He's such a simple dude, and not in a bad way. I mean, I like that every now and then, but he could do it way more than I can. Chill, normal, you know, normal guy. I don't know. I have nothing bad to say about him at all. Not saying that any of this, didn't say he's strange in a negative way. He's just different than how he's marketed himself. And the way he's marketed himself will make him a lot more money in endorsement deals. But that's just not who he is.
it always seemed like he would show glimmers of that kind of bizarre, maybe a stoner vibe there. I don't know. But Joe is just brilliant, and I mean, the guy came to LSU out of nowhere, um, and even though he was on offense, and we have of course heard the famous ping pong story from Atlanta where you guys had the ping pong showdown, and you kicked Joe's ass, absolutely skull dragged him in ping pong. But beyond that, what was your relationship like with Joe?
I mean, I would always mess with him at practice. I'd ask him how bad we'd beat each team we'd play. He was freakishly accurate, actually, a lot of the times. Um, But I mean, I played ping pong with him, hung out with him a few times. At his apartment, and then I mean, we went to the casino a couple times. Um, but I mean, nothing like really highlighted. I went out with him a couple times too, but he wasn't the going out kind of guy. He didn't like going out in Tigerland, or he just didn't. He wasn't that dude. He didn't have that personality. That's why I was saying he's a strange guy because the peak of being Joe Burrow, we won the national championship. Like, yeah, he went out with everybody, but he more went out with everybody because he wanted to be with all his friends. It wasn't because Joe wanted to actually be there. It was because he wanted to be with the Lyman and Jets and Jamar and us. And, he was doing it because everybody else was doing it more than because Joe wanted to do it.
He's going there and blending in, being one with everybody, not going there and
Yeah, exactly. He was
I am the
more.
golden god, Joe Burrow.
Yeah, he was doing it because he wanted to be there with everybody else, and it's just that simple. And that made it. That's like a term of endearment. He wasn't doing it because he wanted to do it. He was doing it because everybody else wanted him to do it. But no, he's a really super cool guy. I haven't actually talked to him in a while. I mean, if I texted him right now, he'd probably say, "Hey, what's up?" But I probably haven't talked to him in like 6 months or so, just because life, man. Like, I'm getting busy with what I'm doing, and he's an NFL All Pro, So it's just, how can I, you know, I'm just a nobody now. Not in that sense. Joe's not that dude. If I saw him in person right now, he'd probably buy my whole dinner at walk-ons if he saw me. He's that kind of guy. But um, no, I mean, he's living the dream. Really, he's just got the second highest paid. What is it? Well, is he number one? I don't even know. I know he's top three paid quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
It's him
Um,
and Justin Jefferson now, like the highest paid in NFL history.
okay, got you. Okay, so
It's
he is
crazy.
number one. That is insane. I thought it was
LSU,
Mahomes, but oh yeah, yeah, no, it's unbelievable that two LSU guys have kind of set the standard for future payment in the NFL, which is unbelievable.
and not just
Um,
that, but just from one team, the team that you were on. I mean, it's just crazy, man, because that swagger from your team was from 2019 alone was iconic. You guys
Yep.
literally were talking shit to teams as you beat them down. Like what you
Mm-hmm.
did to Texas blew their minds for like over 2 years. They didn't recover. Clemson went to 4 title games in 5 seasons until they played us and haven't been to one since. Alabama lost more title games than they won after you, Joe, Clyde, and company went to Tuscaloosa in front of the former president and kicked their ass in front of the world. You guys became kind of like it's like the Beatles of college football. Was there almost like a diabolical we're the dominators mentality that kind of grew throughout that season? Like we're not just going for a championship, we're going for history.
Yeah. Nobody really spoke it. The only person that really, if anything, would have spoken it would have been Joe, because like I said, we had this pregame thing where I'd say, hey, how many points we scoring this week, or how many points we beating them by. And the one that really rose some eyebrows for me was when we played. I'm telling you, 3 days before we play, I'll never forget this. 3 days before we played Oklahoma, I was like, how many points we scoring, Joe? And I was expecting him to say, 45. He said, we're scoring 60. I was like, come on, dude. 60 points. I was like, he's like, no, he's like, we're gonna have 60 before the fourth quarter or whatever. It was something ridiculous. I don't
What
think
a
we had. It
savage.
was so ridiculous. I was just like, there's no way. And sure enough, we put 60 points on Oklahoma. And he did the same thing against Clemson. He said we were going to score 40 and beat them by 2 touchdowns. I think we beat them by 17.
Yes.
And I was like, bro, Clemson just went to like 4 national championships. And you're telling me we're beating by 2 scores, not a touchdown field goal. You're saying 2 touchdowns. There was another game that year. The only game that entire season that he was wrong on was Auburn. That was the only game. Auburn was the only one because he told me we were going to score 40 points against Auburn, and we did not score. We scored 23, I think. I forget, but
Yeah, yeah.
so he was 14-1 in terms of giving me point totals on the season. His only incorrect guess was Auburn the whole year, which is unbelievable. The only other game he didn't like, which is for whatever reason, was Ole Miss. I think he didn't. We scored a lot of points against Ole Miss. I think we scored 50, but we had so many injured players on defense that game. That was the problem. Because I think my question that way, he got rotated between how many points are we scoring or how many points are we winning by, and he had a different answer for that game, if I remember correctly. But I don't really remember that. The memorable one still was Oklahoma. Oklahoma was like, dude, we're in a Final Four game. We're in at the college football playoff, and you're telling me we're putting 60 on Oklahoma, and we're gonna do it in a little like 3 quarters. Like, what are you saying? He was not wrong.
And imagine if they'd let him play the whole game and we actually like kept going, like didn't take the foot off the gas. It was just that game was special, man. I mean, and you were a part of that. You're a big part of that. It never
Mm-hmm.
felt like there was any drama with this team, though. Like I think that was maybe a secret to the success. How difficult though was it for Coach O, Coach Ed Orgeron, to manage all these kind of personalities? I mean, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, you, Joe Burrow. I mean, Clyde. I mean, it's quite a cast of characters.
I mean, to be honest with you, we really had a lot of low maintenance guys. What I mean by low maintenance is just guys that that aren't going to go out and make dumb decisions. A lot. If you look at that roster, how many of those guys? I hate to say it like this, but how many of those guys have gotten in trouble or been arrested, or even today?
Good point.
And every one of those guys had an underdog mentality, except maybe Jamar Chase. He was one. He was kind of a guy that was expected to do great things. But Justin Jefferson was a 3-star. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was 5'7", 5'6", and he was never. He was good in high school, but how many people expected him to be as good of a player at LSU as he was? Not many. Joe was passed on by Ohio State. He was an underdog.
Yes.
Thaddeus Moss had a transfer in. Thaddeus didn't get in damn trouble. If anything, I got Thaddeus in trouble. Like that, our team was so low maintenance. Patrick Queen kept everybody's, on point. Derek Stingley was a man on a mission to go to the NFL. Greedy low maintenance. Who was our safety? Everybody was just low maintenance dudes who were just hungry and had an underdog mentality, and it reflected on the way we played. We had an underdog coach in Coach O, and things kind of flowed seamlessly. When you have all these guys who are low maintenance with the same attitude, it's easy to get them to play together. And that was kind of what it was. It was not difficult to play for a bunch of dudes that were always bet against pretty much their entire football careers. I was a walk on. I mean, my role was small, but I wasn't, it's the same deal as everybody else. I was a walk on for 2 years. Clyde barely got a scholarship. No offense, Clyde, if you heard that. But Clyde, he made it to the NFL. He just got to re-sign. He waited every opportunity, or waited as long as he could for an opportunity at LSU. Got it. Became an absolute stud his last year. Jamar, like I said, was unbelievable. Terrace Marshall maybe was the only other one that was kind of expected to do great things along with Jamar. And we had a bunch of dirt bags on all our offensive line. They were mean. Our O line was mean as shit. And I think Ed Ingram's still in the NFL with the Vikings. I don't know where. I think Austin Deckles with the Buccaneers.
So many of these guys are starting too. Damian Lewis,
Damian
he's
Lewis starting
starting.
for the Seahawks. Like we had
Kush.
that Lloyd Cook. Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting about Lloyd. I love Lloyd. These are the Broncos. We had a bunch of dirt bags, man, and that underdog attitude and mean attitude just transitioned to every phase of the game. Offense, offense is lacking, which was rare in 2019. Defense was on their shit. Defense was lacking. Offense scored a touchdown. Special teams, we were holding it down. It was just a great. When you're dominating all three phases, you really only have to win two phases of the game. If you can win offense or special teams, you're probably winning the game. You can win offense and defense, you're likely blowing them out. If you're winning all three phases, which you did a lot in 2019, you're blowing everybody out. And that's really the way it was. And the only game I would say we didn't outlandishly live or win, rather, both at least two phases was Auburn, because they dominated us on defense. And I would say special teams was about neck and neck that game. But that was the only, and that look how close the score was, 23-20. Every other game, we blasted everybody because we won all three phases. And that's the name of college football right now.
Absolutely dominant. I mean, Greg McMahon holding it down, special teams, offense with Ensminger, Brady, defense with Dave Aranda, who's been coaching at Baylor. I mean, it was a superstar staff, a star-studded staff, just as much as a star-studded roster. Incredible. And Coach O, a guy who I don't think gets enough credit, was probably the biggest star of that whole. When LSU took over college football in 2019, it was Burrow and Coach O were kind of the image of that 2019 team, kind of the identity. What made him the right coach for that team?
Oh man, his intensity. He, I hate to say it this way, but the no nonsense, not playing around. He came in and eliminated a lot of guys really fast. A lot of the culture that was built before him. I'm not gonna say any names, but the culture we had there was not good for someone to succeed unless there was almost like a purge of a lot of the guys with the big personalities, the big attitudes, the big problems. And Coach O immediately came in, and it probably was not that popular in 2017 because, as you could tell, we were 9-4. But once he got the guys he wanted, the sky was the limit. He eliminated so many guys, had a lot of transfers, guys that had poor work ethic, whatever. The guys that were dragging the rest of the team down, he eliminated almost all of them. So all the variables, all the, I don't know the word, but created less drama. It was all about football, and it was all about the players. Coach O never made it about himself. He knew how to motivate. He knew how to, they game planned, and his preparation. And people don't realize this. People think he's this brutal coach and made us, we were violent at practice. Yeah, absolutely, well, we were. But people don't realize that before the Oklahoma game, we had 3 less practices than Oklahoma because he knew we were tired from our season. And I believe Jack Marucci probably advised him a little bit on this. He's like, hey, we're probably going to beat the shit out of Oklahoma. So why don't we give our guys a break? Dead serious. It's a real conversation. And Coach O was probably like, "What? You don't want to practice?" And I'm telling you, we could have practiced 3 more times. Instead, we just had walkthroughs, and that's why we were so fresh. And he could read the room, and he was like, "You know what? I'm gonna heed this advice, even though everything in my being wants to practice these guys hard and get them all tired for this game." Da 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 da. Nope, we were off our feet, rested, doing walkthroughs, NFL style, just almost relax. It was kind of weird before the Oklahoma game. We're like, I don't know if we prepared the way we should, and we prepared plenty because we kicked the shit out of them, so it didn't matter. Um,
You guys had a lot of injuries and a lot of walking wounded, and so that's what you
mhm.
guys needed is just time to rest.
Yep, we were banged up, and I want to say Oklahoma. You had allotted. Let's just say this was. I think it was 15 practices. That could be completely wrong. I think you had 15 or 16 practices. Let's just call it 15. We only practiced 12 times, like full practice. They practiced all 15 times and walkthroughs and whatever else they did. We only practiced 12. And by the time the game started, we were like, man, this is the best I felt the whole year, and that's why we went out there. And by the third quarter, they looked, and we were already kicking their ass by then, but they were just done by the third quarter because they were just, worn out from all the practices and everything they'd just gone through.
Man, that's why Jack Marucci is still kept on staff. Why he's still
Mm-hmm.
there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's basically took advantage of an extra bye week, and it's exactly what we should have done. There was injuries all over the team. Delpit, Rashard Lawrence, Clyde even got hurt. I mean, there's injuries all over the place, and you saw a completely different animal against Oklahoma, and then even against Clemson with the defense. The defense were faster. They're flying around, getting more to the ball, shutting things down. It was a lot better for everything, and I think that's just such a cool little nugget you just said there. Um, Zach, one thing, do you think, regardless of the criticism for maybe some of the certain off-field things or the way it all ended with Coach O, do you think Coach O doesn't get enough love or credit for what he achieved at LSU?
Ooh, that's a tough subject for me to broach because there's a lot of things I would love to say. And I'm not going to sit here and say some of it doesn't come from a biased point of view, but with the things that were going on in his personal life that he just ate and did not reveal to the public, because he never told the public his side of the story or what was really going on. All we saw was that TMZ was posting and, the rumor mill and all that. Um, he just ate all of that because he'd always say in the meetings, I'm a grown man. I'm going to take it on the chin, this or that. Coach O deserved a lot better than what we did him, especially after the 2019 year. Um, but everybody has their personal life problems, and unfortunately, the media we watched his personal life spill out into his coaching life, and I think that was very unfortunate. And look, at this point, what can you do? People have their perception of him, and whatever that is, it may be good, but it was guided by the media. It wasn't something that they derived on their own. It was steered in a certain direction, and I think he would do it differently. Uh, but I also think I wish people knew the whole truth and not the media truth, the version of events that happened that got him fired, as opposed to the version of events that actually happened. And I'm not going to sit here and say he didn't make mistakes because, of course, he did. That's, he's human just like everybody else, but he was done wrong in a sense, and he should have had more of an opportunity to rebound his life than what we gave him. And that's really the only thing I can say without going into more detail. And I don't really want to because it's not my story to tell. You know what I mean, Lon?
Absolutely, I respect that. I think that's absolutely where we'll leave that. I think that's man. You always are doing right by this guy, Coach O. I mean, he did right by you. You're doing right by him years later after the fact. How was your relationship with him? Your personal relationship with him?
I mean, I love the man. He gave me a chance. I can say that. Look, I definitely have a biased perspective, but I also respect the man because he didn't do anything or tell you anything that he wasn't willing to do himself.
Yes.
And that holds weight and a lot of weight alone. Um, and he's not going to pretend he's somebody he's not. He was never going to be the I'm the book smart guy, I'm this or that. He would tell our players, "Hey, I barely passed college. Barely. I'm fortunate to have a college degree. So that means you need to have a college degree." He's like he would just straight up admit that. And that kind of off the cuff honesty and the way he carried himself. A lot of people didn't like it, but man, I loved it because he was real. And in today's world, that you're not going to get a lot of that. And his authenticity was something that really rubbed me the right way. And in a lot of ways, that's affected my real personal life because being authentic in my life has at times made a lot of people angry because I might say things that are uncomfortable truths to people, and that's just family, friends, whatever it may be. But I got that from I had it before him with my own father, but with him it was different because I want to say a certain thing, but I don't want to drop the F bomb. He just
You're
did
okay.
not care. He did not care what you thought of him. He was going to tell you the truth no matter what. And that was something that I was like, man, he really is. And that's why a lot of people didn't like him. People don't like hearing the truth, especially if it's the truth about themselves and an uncomfortable truth about themselves. And he did that all the time, made a lot of enemies probably doing it, including not with just football players, but staff at LSU. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say he wasn't crazy at times. The man's from down the bayou, Louisiana. Everybody from down the bayou's got a little bit of crazy. Um, and I'm speaking. That's my moose speaking. My mom's side of the family's from Mamou, Louisiana. So everybody's got a little crazy down the bayou. Um, and there's no question he did, and he made mistakes with that. But at the same time, the dude always had good intentions, and he always tried to tell the truth. Um, and I respect that. And that's all I can really say about him.
I mean that it's really sad with Coach O because you got 2019 where it's like greatest team of all time. That man is going to be coach for life. He was born to coach LSU. The accent. He was born from as if he was born out of the soil. He was really born to coach LSU. The national brand, everything was behind Coach O. Everything was working, and then 2020 happens. There's guys who are moving on to the draft. Some coaches are leaving, and then the pandemic hits. And when that happened in 2020, March 2020, when did you realize this 2020 is going to be a very different season compared to last year?
Our rhythm was all messed up because of the way we practiced, how we practiced, the timing. It was. I mean, he had 3 years under his belt of the way he did things, and all of a sudden everything was derailed, and he could no longer do exactly what he felt was right for our team. Um, Obviously, everybody went through that, but I especially think it derailed our team more so because we lost so many star players, and now we're operating in a completely different, I want to say, realm because practices were different. We're doing Zoom meetings. We're not even meeting the same in the facility. It completely derailed everything. The momentum we had from winning the national championship, all of it was changed at a snap of a finger. And like I said, everybody had to deal with it, and some people handled it better than others. But we were not prepared the way maybe other teams were, and that's probably where he did get some flack. But at the same time, he just had 3 consecutive years every year improving 9-4 2017, 10-3 2018, 15-0 2019. Of course, you're going to regress after that. I didn't think we regressed to the level we did, but we never had a rhythm. We never had a proper routine. We had too many new players. We had too many guys that were the bad culture guys that we had from 2016 back. Um, because our culture had so much improved leading up to that 2019 team. All those players are gone. The underdog mentality is gone. Suddenly, you got a bunch of 5 stars. You got a bunch of me guys, and not a bunch of we guys. It was just so different. Energy was different, not playing in front of fans changed everything. Um, Miles got injured. That was another thing people forget. Miles was playing great football before he broke his hip, or forgot his injury specifically, but he was playing great. I don't remember his passer rating. It wasn't as good as Joe's, but he was I want to say at least second in the SEC, and he might have been first uh, after the game 3 when he played against Missouri with that broken hip, or I forget,
That
a labrum,
spleen or whatever happened,
what
and
yeah.
he set
And
some records, I believe, for the first 3 starts for an LSU quarterback as far as passing yards. I swear that may have been either second to Joe or right on the heels of Joe. The numbers were insane for Miles.
Yep. And it just, like I said, just derailed us worse than other teams. And um, it was disheartening because that was my senior year. Never got to have a true senior day. 20,000 people showed up to my senior day because we couldn't have full capacity stadium. So that whole year, man, I just like kind of want to forget it and just like, oh, 2019 was my senior year. I went out on top. But man, 2020 was just, oh, God, after talk about going from the pinnacle of life to just absolute the depths of despair in terms of your career. I'm just like, this is really how my career at LSU is going to end. I'm going to end with a 20,000 seat stadium, and and don't get me wrong, the fans actually that day were yelling, and there was fans with signs and this and that, and it was cool, but it just wasn't the same energy, atmosphere, any of it. And I'm still to this day. That's one of the things that is like my biggest regret, and it's not even a regret because what could I have done to change it? Was my last year didn't have a true senior day and get the right send off. I guess is the best way to put it. And that was for every senior of that season. Because a lot of guys had that same experience that I had.
That's how I know you're like a consummate teammate, Zach, because you're all like pissed about 2020 when that was your best individual season.
Oh yeah,
That was your
yeah.
best individual punting season where LSU needed you. I mean, that's not just my opinion. That is consensus that will go down in LSU history, where everyone will talk about how if we didn't have that guy, the punter, number 38, Zach von fucking Rosenberg, we didn't have that guy in 2020, we're probably winning like 3 games.
I appreciate you saying that. It was probably definitely, I would say, in terms of getting the ball inside the 20, especially in my angle push punting, that was definitely my best individual season was 2020, without a doubt. There's no doubt. But like you said, I'm glad we went 5-5, but it was a bittersweet thing to go, from 15-0 to 5-5 in front of the atmosphere that lacked, that what it became unidentifiable of Tiger Stadium. But I appreciate the compliment, and you're right, and it got me a chance to go to the next level. But those moments are not, the personal. Obviously, for me, it's I'm thrilled, and I put in so much effort and hard work to have that season. But when your team doesn't win, it's like, all right, what did I really accomplish? And that's kind of the perspective I have on it. Because when I think about my career, I'm like, well, 2019 was the best year. Uh, but it wasn't individually. It definitely wasn't. But whenever I think back on my career at LSU, I'm like, man, 2019, that was amazing. Like that was such a ridiculous run. And even 2018, because we were 10-3, because those were my best 2 seasons. But I would rank 2020 third. You ask me, gun to my head, I'm saying 2019 1, 2018 2, and 2023 is third ranked. And but no, I appreciate that compliment, Lon. It means a lot.
Well, and you had a big part to play that I completely skipped over in the national championship game against Clemson, man. Without your punting in that first half, specifically when we're down 10 points, Clemson got us on the ropes. Your first punt, maybe not the best, and you're like, holy shit, only 36-yard punt. They're right on the 42. Our defense gets a big stop. They bail us out. And then your next punt, when we're like stuck inside the 10, you boot it like 56 yards, 60 yards, something like that. You pin them all the way down. Our defense gets some more stops. We get back into that game. You punted your ass off in that game. Cade York had some big clutch kicks that kept that game a two possession game. Man, it's your holding kind of gets overlooked as well. And I just wanted to say that as well, that you played a big part in that 2019 title game too that gets overlooked.
I appreciate it. Yeah, my first punt probably doesn't help. I was shitting bricks because the whole year, 2019, I'm barely punting every game. And all of a sudden, we're 30 seconds into the first game. We're on our 1 yard line. And my first snap of the game, I'm 9 yards deep in the end zone, catching an 11-yard snap, hoping I don't drop it, hoping I don't step out the back of the end zone for a safety, and hoping I just get the ball off. So I hit a 36-yard punt. It's terrible. Thrilled to punt it. I
Exactly.
didn't drop the ball, didn't cause a safety and go down 2-0, didn't get it blocked. I just one stepped, kicked it the hell out of there, and I'm just happy it wasn't a highlight clip of Zach von Rosenberg shits the bed in the end zone. That's what I was happy about.
I'm glad you brought that up because I totally forgot to mention that context that you were booting that out of the end zone.
Yeah. No, 36 yards, terrible punt. Just happy it was 36 yards and not touchdown, Clemson, block, punt, safety, whatever, any other outcome. 36 yards, take it all day long on a 1 yard line.
You did your job. You gave the defense a chance to shut them down. They did. They allowed 5 yards on the drive. They have to punt it right back to us. So you did your job. You got the ball out of there.
Yep. There's no doubt. And that's actually what Greg told me. He saw me running out and saying, I don't give a shit. Get the punt off. Get the punt off. So I got it off. That's all I did. I did my job. So you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Regardless, nobody knows I needed a new set of drawers after, but we got it off.
I think you sell yourself short, Zach, because I don't think you realize you became such a big fan favorite, at least from my viewpoint. And I think I have a pretty good pulse on LSU as far as the landscape of the fans, what's going on, the social media aspect of it too. You were becoming a guy LSU fans could rely on in a time where we didn't really know what was going on day to day, who would even be available either. As someone who was going through that 2020 season, who was a player, who was a teammate of yours you think that kind of doesn't get enough credit for what they did that season?
In 2020?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
The answer is gonna be Miles, but that's such a cliche answer. But Miles, I'm telling you, we go 7-3 if Miles is our quarterback. Because God, that's after we lost to Mississippi State, we came back with how do I say this? Miles he was going to stay the course. We were always going to put up points. We're absolutely giving up too many points. And God, that's such a bad answer, though. I shouldn't use that answer. But the reason I'm saying Miles, because Miles stuck with us the whole year. He was helping out the backup quarterbacks, the freshmen, after that to play better. And to be honest with you, after Miles' injury, we easily could have gone 3-7, like you were mentioning earlier. But he stuck with our team, and he really grinded with those quarterbacks to help them improve and quickly because we had two freshmen. God, I don't even know. One's in North Carolina. Where is Finley? Where's TJ? Is he done?
Max Johnson, then TJ Finley. Where did he transfer to? I know he just barely transferred to
San Marcos, Texas. That's what it was. San Marcos.
Texas State.
Yeah. So TJ is San Marcos and Max Johnson's the North Carolina. It's really sad neither one of them could stick it out of LSU, which I get it. But they were set up in such a bad situation because if they sit for a year without play, you don't derail their confidence, and I think they end up having a better chance at being a starting quarterback at LSU. Either one of them, honestly. But Max is now at North Carolina, like I said. But anyway, Miles stuck out that year. And the crappy thing about my answer is nobody saw Miles in the quarterback locker room. Nobody saw Miles coaching up TJ. Nobody saw Miles coaching up Max. Nobody saw that. So nobody knows what actually happened. They just see Miles get hurt, and that was it. He didn't play the rest of the year. Miles really took it upon himself to be a leader and to help those guys. And what really sucks is you don't get to see the fruits of his labor because both guys transfer, and that's the thing that really sucks about that situation. Um, but we did finish 5-5, and we did rescue a season from being perilous and being 3-7, or however bad it could have been. Um, but man, that season is there's so many asterisks next to it that it sucks that was my last year. I'll just put it to you that way.
I'm sorry to keep bringing it up because it's just something I had to ask you because it's such a bizarre season where you're having an individual high, a team low. You just had this like greatest of all time. You were a part of a starter on the greatest of all time college football team. I think we can just say that, right?
Absolutely, there's no doubt.
Like I mean, Miami 2002 or 2001. They are losing to you guys. We can just say it right now. You are part of the greatest of all time team, and then you go to a team that, I mean, you guys lost Miles, your starter. You guys have two freshman backups. All this stuff is going on. Guys are gone left and right. COVID unavailable. I mean, injuries too were stacking up. It's something I just had to ask about because, I mean, there's a lot of adversity, and adversity kind of makes us who we are. Is there anything from that season that's kind of like left a scar on you, but like in a good way?
Ooh, in a good way. I thought you were going to say just leave it at scar, and I was going to tell you about my senior day again. In a good
Yeah.
way, it was a humbling experience, kind of setting you up for life, right? Um, so in a good way, that season really was life because the average person doesn't get to play college football. The average person doesn't get to play professional football. The average person doesn't get to play professional baseball. And I've been fortunate enough to do all those things, and that was such a humbling come back down to reality moment for me that I kind of started preparing my life differently. When you're riding a high like 2019, you don't have your attitude and expectations are kind of unrealistic. Well, after 2020, it definitely brought down the expectations of like, okay, yeah, you can work hard and you can do X, Y, and Z, but there's factors that are beyond your control that can absolutely humble you, humble your team, humble, just to bring you back to reality moment. And that year absolutely did that. And made me focus more on what life after sports would look like, because you finally hit the dirty 30 and you're like, man, what am I actually going to do with my life? I need to figure this shit out. And I did. It took me a little while, dragged my feet a little too long maybe, but everybody's got to run their own race. And I just kept the same mentality, and it's such a cliche and dumb thing to do, but when you have a work ethic and you're able to practice what you do in athletics and the working world, the business world, exactly what you're doing with this podcast, our show, Ron. If you're betting on yourself, you're always going to win. If you know you can rely on you to do something and your willingness to do something, it's always a win. Even like you could fail 1,000 times, all it takes is one success, and your life is made. And there's so many stories. Look at the guy. There's such a, I don't know why I thought of him, MySpace Tom. When's the last time you heard of MySpace Tom? The little picture. The dude made like $500 million. Have you heard from him since? Nobody made $500 million. I'm sure he's on a beach in Thailand right now having a great time.
Oh,
So all it takes is one victory and one time really betting on yourself and going all out and finally getting that win. And you can kind of look back in your life and say, well, I did pretty good. And somewhere along the way, you got to help other people out, which I try to do now as much as possible. But it's always you're one victory away from making something of yourself, from fixing your current situation, from being better, from looking yourself in the mirror and being like, damn, you finally made it. You're so fortunate you finally did it. And that's something that a lot more people need to have. They need to have those small victories and understand you're going to lose and fail so much more than you succeed, but it only takes one big success to finally make it.
I think that's why I brought up 2020 is because it's like I feel I learned so much from the failures. The mistakes I've made. It's been unbelievable, almost priceless experience. No amount of semesters of college teaching me journalism could ever like make that happen. Where I really get my pants pulled down in front of the entire country. That was a big time moment where it's like, okay, we've got to either figure, are we serious about this? Are we really going to do this? Let's go all in. And everything really changed once, betting on yourself, like you have. I mean, Zach, just a few more questions because I've taken so much damn time from you, but you have a lot of options. You have a lot of interests. You could do finance. You could do politics. You could do a lot of different things. What are you doing right now, Zach? What does your future bring?
I'm working my way up at a company called Sorrento uh, Concrete and Lumber. The Melanson family bet on me, and I'm doing everything in my power to make them proud that they bet on me. And just by chance, this opportunity presented itself, partly through my girlfriend actually. And I didn't. I kind of wanted to be a coach there, but I didn't want to start and have to grind out 3 years as a GA, or I just didn't want to do that. I knew that I could achieve success a little bit faster than that. And look, I don't know. I know less than 5% of what I need to know in terms of concrete and lumber. Um, but what I do have is, like I said, the work ethic and the attitude of every day I show up to work is a new day, and whether I screwed everything up yesterday or not, I'm not screwing it up today. Um, and I'm going to get back into sports, and that's probably going to be when I have children. Um, and I, like you said, I could have gone finance. I could have gone and started my own business, and that may not be out of the cards yet. But um, I knew I could be successful at this company, and I did bet on myself that I would. There's some things I want to say, but I don't want to say them on air because how do I say this? I think they've been very good to me at Sorrento, and I've done everything I can in my power to return that favor, and um, I do everything I can on a daily basis to help this company be successful. And like I said, I don't know what the future holds. I just know that one day at a time, I give everything I can, and not in a cliche way. I'm not only in terms of me trying to improve my career by selling building materials. I try to help people save money constantly, um, and do that as best I can, because at the end of the day, if I save 50 people money, well, those 50 people are going to say, well, you go talk to Zach. He saved me X amount of money on my house slab or my building material, or my lumber, my takeoff, my this, my that, fuel surcharges, any way because at the end of the day, you are your reputation. If you're a sleazeball salesman, then you're not gonna get more customers. So I go out of my way to do whatever I can to help people save money and get them the service and the concrete and the lumber they need. So boring and sounds like terrible on the air, but I genuinely do it all the time, every day, and I try to help people out.
Hey, it's not boring to me if that's what's putting the food on the table. That's what's paying the bills, but also that's something that you're damn good at. I can tell. That's something that you're learning from every day. You're getting better at, and that's something that you're going to grow in for the next little while. But I mean, is there ever a chance that maybe you would do coaching?
Yeah, I've thought about it. I probably would have given it a shot at Coach O, not gotten fired. Um, but his firing kind of sealed that deal, because he kind of offered it to me to be a GA, um, that season that they were, his final season at LSU. And I really thought about it, and I just kind of was still training. I had a 49ers tryout, probably a month after he offered that to me, because I was still trying to make it. And then a month after that, so I hadn't even had an opportunity to make a decision yet. It had been announced that he was, it was a wrap on his career essentially. Um, and that was kind of when I was like, well, if he's gone, I don't really have an opportunity right now to be a GA. I guess I could get him to refer me to somebody, but I just kind of took that as a sign of like, all right, Zach, you'll get back into sports when the time is right, when you have children of your own and you're not burnt out, right? Because a lot of coaches that are coaching it for a living, it's very difficult for them to do it in their personal life, and I just accepted that as my fate. But when I do have kids of my own, um, I'll jump right back in, and I have a wealth of knowledge, hopefully, that I need to read up on, right? Because I'm out of the game now a few years, but I'll get right back into it when the time's right.
You've said it a few times, Zach. I've got to ask you about this. You've said it a few times. I've just kind of like noticed, like, this guy said it a few times. I think something's coming. Are you and your girlfriend like really planning? You guys want a family?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, we'll get engaged here soon, and we'll get married shortly thereafter. Yeah, I don't even have the ring yet, so don't get excited. But I will soon, and we've talked about this. It's more, both of our lives are aligning first before we make big decisions. Which the big decisions probably going to be made soon, but
Oh yeah,
we're making sure to cross the T's, dot the I's, and make sure everything is right, and then we'll jump right into it. I'll be engaged for like 5 months and then get married, and it'll be quick. It's not one of those things. Oh, we were engaged for so long. It'll be a quick decision. I mean, we've been together almost 3 years now, so it'll be a cool deal. I'm excited about it. It's like your priorities change when you don't have sports anymore, right? So that's kind of where I'm at in life.
man, this is crazy. This is crazy. Zach, I'm actually happy for you. You sound like you're at peace. You sound like you're enjoying life. You sound like you're having fun. You, am I correct?
Absolutely. Do I miss football? Yep. Do I miss baseball? Absolutely. But um, it's a chapter in your life, and I'm trying to write the next chapter now. I don't know where it's leading me yet. I have an idea and I have a plan. Is it going to go to plan? Probably not, but I'm at least trying to plan it. So, but it's different. It's definitely different than sports. Sports are a lot more. Um, it's a lot more black and white in sports. You're either successful or you're not. In life, you can fail as many times as life lets you, I guess. Um, but you just got to keep getting back up, and I've been very fortunate that I've gotten to the position I'm at now, and had people bet on me, for lack of a better word. I've had the Melanson family has bet on me, and I'm just trying to return the favor. And like you said, I don't. I'm like a hermit now. I'm like Joe rubbed off on me. I don't go out too much. The only time I really get out is during football season. Um, I got rid of my what do you call it? About 3 months ago, 4 months ago, I got rid of cable. I read more. I sit on my back porch with my dog. I'm growing plants. They're right there. I don't know if you can see them.
Yes,
I would love
botany.
to. I would love to. Look, I'm not gonna. You think I'm joking? There's literally.
I see it. I see it. Oh crap! He went out. Crap. Hopefully it doesn't end this way. Dang, this would be a crappy way to end because I really want to say thanks to Zach for this time. I mean, he just spent like an hour and a half with us, telling us the coolest stories, being so generous with his time. Really want to make sure he understands how much I have. Oh, there he is.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
I'm like,
I
God,
lost you.
I hope he doesn't get. I hope we don't get cut off here at the end, just because man. Sorry, continue.
No, you life changes, and you change your attitude, everything you're doing, in order to accommodate where you are in life. And I'm just trying to figure this thing out without sports. It's a hard task to do, but I don't really have a choice. And I do miss sports, and I miss It's not so much the game either; it's the camaraderie, the brotherhood. That's the harder part, really, because everybody just kind of moves on and goes their own way. That's the harder part. Of course, I miss football as a game and baseball as a game, but the camaraderie and the friendships and the people you care about, and goodness, all the tiger jacks and wind sprints and running and lifting and hits. And I mean, that was tight end days, but just life gets so fast when you're outside of the game. And that's the hardest part, I would say, of losing that side of life. That competitiveness, you get it in the business world, but it's not the same competitiveness that exists in sports. It just isn't. It's 1/10 of it, you know. And I'm not going to sit here and say that when I get a win in business, it's not fun. It is, but it's not the same win that it is in a, you know, when you beat Auburn, when you're think you're about to lose, or you beat Florida at home and your Gator chomping them out of the stadium. It's just completely different atmosphere. And but a lot of people don't understand that the camaraderie of sports is what makes sports what they are. It's not so much the actual games themselves.
Seriously, that is the number one response I always hear. Always hear from ex players. I miss the camaraderie. I miss the brotherhood. I miss the vibe of everybody together. And here you are saying it again, and it's obvious you would say that when you're on the greatest team of all time.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Zach, seriously, I want to thank you so much for your time. You spent an hour and a half with us. You're extremely generous hanging out with us. I cannot believe we've been able to talk to you like this. This has been very fun. Would love to have you back on the show again during the season to talk, or maybe preseason if you want to talk to the Tigers' upcoming season.
Absolutely, yeah. Just hit me up again, and I'll be glad to do a preseason prep or something, and we'll talk about the USC game. But yeah, just let me know, Lon. I'd love to be on your show again.
Man, this has been incredible. Zach, thank you so much for coming on, and you have a wonderful rest of your night, sir.
Awesome. Take care, Lon. Have a good one.
LSU legend, Zach von Rosenberg, everybody. LSU legend, Zach von Rosenberg. Joining us for what was an absolute action-packed stream. We hope you had a ton of fun watching this because we had a lot of fun doing this. Zach is an incredible dude to talk to, as you just saw. Really didn't hold back. Really was very generous in his answers, generous in the time that he gave. I could not believe some of the insight, you know. Really, if you want to know stuff about the 2019 team, that was such a brilliant interview because Zach just, some of the insight he just gave really helps me know some of those players and some of those coaches more in a three-dimensional way than I thought I knew them. The 2020 season, the stuff he talked about with the 2020 season, absolutely incredible. That Miles, I mean, we saw Miles on the sidelines, and some kind of tried to prop that story up of Miles helping the quarterbacks. But you kind of think maybe that's just some like beat journalist, beat writer kind of fluff, you know? But when it comes from a guy like ZVR, you know that not only happened, but like that had a big impact. So like a no bullshit Tiger that we just talked to, a national champion, no bullshit Tiger who we're not gonna be, you know, strangers with this guy. I think he's got a big future ahead. He's got a lot of bright things going on with him, as you just heard, and hopefully we'll be seeing wedding invitations coming soon in the mail. Just joking. That'd be cool though. But of course we would go. Of course we would go if we were invited. But I'm inviting myself to Zach von Rosenberg's wedding. What am I doing now? I'm embarrassing myself. Good Lord. Everyone, thank you for watching. That was an awesome, awesome night to talk with a LSU Tiger legend. It is always a blessing to do this job, to be able to cover the LSU Tigers. But on nights like this, I get a deeper appreciation for it even more when you just talk to someone like that and you get to know them on a whole different level than you ever thought you would. Zach von Rosenberg, everybody. Definitely watch that entire interview. I know it's long, but these long-form podcasts, they're the way of the future. And it's because of conversations like and how they develop like this. Everybody, have a wonderful night. Thank you for watching. LSUODYSSEY.com for your Tiger needs. LSUODYSSEY.com. Visit and subscribe right there. LSUODYSSEY.com/subscribe. You just go to the homepage and it's right there. There's a subscribe button to click on as well. Follow us on the X or Twitter or whatever the hell it's going to be called in the next 2 days. At Lon Phillips right there. Instagram at LSU Odyssey Lawn. Facebook, I don't even know what we have on Facebook. At Zuckerberg 666 or something. Everybody, thank you so much. Oh, and we definitely got to get a plug in as well for Iconic Brand Shop Today, the #1 source for championship mentality apparel. Iconic Brand Today. We're wearing the hat. We're rocking the hat. Everybody, thank you so much. Go Tigers, baby.